this parallels between the Chinese thought, the Bible, and the Indian thought, I think has tremendous potential. So I want to tell you what is happening to the meetups. All of a sudden, instead of having these various different topics, things are coming together, and they have come together organically. So on one hand, we are doing this comparison between three great works of the East, of China, India, and the West. Secondly, we are diving into the design way, which is trying to bring together, the way the author puts it, bringing together the true, the real, and the ideal in order to design for the future. This is the vision of man as a designing animal, that being the core of who we are. What we do is that we bring together, we use all our thinking to figure out what is true. We project an ideal as best as we can, and then try to make it real in design. All these three things brought together. So that's what it is about. It is a very profound work. The author himself is joining us at all our meetups, including some of the people he has worked with for 20, 30 years. They're all joining for the meetups. So the level of discussion there is incredible. We are going chapter by chapter, but in addition to that, we are doing on Mondays, and on Thursdays, we are looking at our own design practices and how we are understanding the book. So it's a really deep dive into the book on one hand, but this is putting it from the content perspective. At a higher level, what we are trying to do through all these meetups is we are trying to develop a new medium. It is actually retrieving something which is very old. This is actually a scribal way of functioning, of having this dialogue between the written and the oral, and oral, more importantly, oral conversation between people. So you're getting people from multiple perspectives focused on the same written work, talking through their perspectives, interacting with one another, bringing out the richness, and hopefully that transforming it back into written form, which we will figure out how to do. So it's a way of this marriage between written and oral, between logos and mythos. We're trying to bring that together, and we're doing this on Design Way, which is a modern work written only 10 years ago, as well as these three classics. In addition to that, we have a series on Sunday by the Center for the Study of Digital Life, which is looking at how these different technologies are transforming the way in which we are acting. So this oral, scribal, print, electric, and digital. What is the mode of thinking that is encouraged by that? Again, that goes to the heart of what we are doing. And their motto too is retrieval of scribal. So that is another piece. And all of that on Wednesdays, we are doing this comprehensivism, where we are trying to take on a wide variety of topics, including neuroscience, Harry Potter, and music. Those are the three things that are coming up. And then I think the next ones are improv, and then thinking methods, and so on. So it's just using these techniques on a wide variety of things. So it is kind of, I feel it's all these meetups are coming together, where we are taking things which are very deep. We are engaging in very deep dialogue on it, developing methods in order to raise what can be done with written work. And I have this Dao De Jing meetups to thank for that, because that's where I think we have done the most spectacular job. And now we're trying to carry it out to other things. So that's what I wanted to say. And I invite any comments on what we are trying to do, because I see these, I see us going to a completely new level of serious engagement with very deep topics with this. And you will start to see many cross connections between all of these. So any thoughts? Go ahead and type exclamation mark if you would like to comment. So let's start with Joe, followed by Maritza. Joe.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are quite a few crossovers. I think that the really interesting one for me is you're kind of seeing the design thinking, and how Mark's presentations, if you start thinking about it, these are designs that are changing the West, the East, and digital. And it's just how the future is actually going to be designed. And that's where that's really a rich conversation. The Dao De Ching is part of that, obviously. And I think that this has been one of my, I think primarily this is one of the most successful meetups that we have for a variety of reasons. I think that, obviously Jason and Aman have brought a lot to that as well. But the idea that how like we think about nature and where the East needs to retrieve what they need to retrieve, and how Mark has related that to where even, China and places like that are headed. I think that that's been extremely powerful to have all these running in parallel. I also think it was very helpful to have the series on the Bible, as well as, now going through the Bible itself. And as you had mentioned, seeing the real, the ideal, and when we were talking about John 1. So it is, I really like this combination. I'm very excited about the Gita and seeing how that integrates. That's where I'm really excited, because then we start to have, 3 major cultures, and we can really start to see how everything works together. I think design thinking is really kind of bringing it to a new level, because then even you start to look at things as to why they're occurring the way they are, what these changes are, and what is actually going to end up influencing the way we behave based on these changes, especially the digital aspect of it. So I think I'm really excited about these. There isn't a night that you don't want to miss any night. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's about as successful as you can get. And I've actually am really been rejuvenated into Louis Sullivan lately as well, quite a bit. I see that very, very, it's very relevant to the design discussion, and it's kind of opened my eyes up to a lot of other things as well. So.
Wonderful. Joe, before I go to Maritza and anybody else who wants to comment, I want to pick up on one concept that Joe brought about, and that is the concept of retrieval. That's a huge idea. So let me show you a diagram here. So this is the tetrad of Marshall McLuhan, modified by me to make it more accessible to myself. I call it the redo cycle. So it's very similar to John Boyd's idea. But the point I want to focus on is retrieval. See, what happens is that we live in a world where we use different technologies, different ways of doing things that produce all kinds of effects, which also have a lot of side effects, which were not really intended. And all the technologies that we use kind of overextend themselves, whether it is television or your phone or even reading, everything kind of overextends and it produces all kinds of effects. And one way to solve that is to retrieve something that is the core of your being. So one of the reasons, for example, Tao Te Ching is so powerful is that it is really retrieving nature. And that is the rejuvenation. So it retrieves, so all of these, any kind of technology, it retrieves something that is really precious in a seed form. So Tao Te Ching is just giving you the way of nature. That's the seed. It's very quiet. It's very small. Okay. And then enhancement means that you work out the implications of the seed that you have gotten. So that's what technology, that's what design is about, taking that seed and expanding it. So that's the enhancement part. And when you do that, it displaces something that was in your life. So for example, the more Tao occupies your life, there are things that it displaces. Not only Tao, but anything, like for example, television retrieves performance, but it enhances it so that it becomes like one to many and massive amount of performance. And what it displaces is actual genuine social interaction, reading, things like that. And when it is overextended, it is going to produce almost a fantasy world, whereas you're kind of inundated by these fantasy things. So it happens in a positive way. And a negative way as well. So the idea of retrieving is going back and saying, what is really important? So people like Jung, for example, when they look at mythology, when they look at the patterns that human beings have had for a long time, they're trying to retrieve something that is core to human beings. So the idea of retrieval is humongously powerful. And let me get back here. So I just want to say that about retrieval. Now let's go to Maritza.
So you were asking us about the convergence of all the different discussions we've been having here at 5211 Ideas. I like the word convergence. I think that's quite accurate way of saying it. I started attending your meetups for the intellectual curiosity. And, I found them to be very stimulating. That changed when I started reading Louis Sullivan. Kind of subtle at first. Now, the Louis Sullivan, for me personally, I find Louis Sullivan to have been almost like life-altering philosophy. Just mind-blowing to read his philosophical thoughts. But it just kept kind of spiraling from there. And what I find now, sometimes I feel like I'm going crazy because the same concepts seem to appear regardless of what discussion. Sometimes I have to look and make sure I've got the day correct. And I'm, it's like, I thought we were talking about the Tao today. Why is Louis Sullivan here? Just what I feel at times is ideas that were already within me. I now have an easier time of voicing them because I've been strengthening other aspects that allow me to recognize them. And that's that 52 living ideas has become for me. It's become almost a sounding board. I am stretching my wings with this amazing group of people. And I can see that while no one philosophy is the way or the answer, there is so much value in looking at all the various philosophies and the constant changing from one philosophical thought to another, from discussion to discussion. It allows the mind to be more elastic and more open to this concept of changing one's perspective. Now, that's always been something that I really did believe, but now it's something that I'm doing more naturally, and I'm seeing others wield tools that if I can figure out how to make a similar tool or how to wield my own tool in such a manner, I will be more effective in this concept of change in perspective. In my beliefs that I have held, I can have more conviction because I'm learning the manner in which to maybe have supporting theorems and theories to go with it. And also the maybe tools. Tools is the word. It's just that we are building tools for living here, which is appropriate. You know, it's called 52 Living Ideas. And who knew that the ideas are not, they're not just like these ephemeral things. They're like these massive concepts that are actually tools that we're gonna, all of us pick up and we're all going to tinker. And right now we're like, all of us putting them together to make even bigger tools. And that's pretty awesome. And like I said, sometimes it's almost, I wonder if I'm stuck in the wrong perspective sometimes, because I do, because it just seems like more and more I find the ideas coalescing. But when I'm not having my nervous fears that I'm just, seeing zebras everywhere, I find that what it is, it's that elasticity. Because we are hopping from philosophical thought to philosophical thought, with the group we're moving along, it does force the mind to begin to develop that as a more natural state of thinking.
Wow. Thank you, Maritza. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, and I do think, like, Louis Sullivan has been the biggest influential thinker in my life. And he is the most integrative thinker. And he is the broadest thinker. He is the most ambitious thinker. He has the kind of the dramatic power, intuition, expression, the gift of expression, the powerful expression, poetic, metaphorical expression of trying to grapple with the whole as well as the delicacy of it, the structure of it. So it's just, so though not that many people have focused on Louis Sullivan in our meetups, those who have actually are able to use it as a glue. The principle of form follows function. It is so deep that it can go across very, very easily. And certainly, these ideas, what you're talking about, the ideas keep coming back, like Jordan Peterson's Order and Chaos, okay, Yin Yang from the Taoism, Logos and Mythos from the Bible. I mean, these ideas keep coming, and they are all, the beautiful thing is that I think because we are studying various, many things, and we are diving really deep into them and trying to understand them in their own terms, we are getting some of the depth and some of the richness of the individual patterns. At the same time, we are able to see, because we're doing this for many things, we are able to see patterns. And then I think the biggest thing is that we ourselves are formulating our own way of approaching each of these things, because these have to be personal. You can use other people's ideas as a base, but then you have to put it in a form which actually speaks to you, way you can use it. I'm particularly excited about the design way because it is about design. What we're talking about here is kind of designing our mind, our life, our world. And we are trying, at every level. And design is the right perspective, because you're trying to make things better, and you're trying to structure them the right way. Now, the design way provides a framework. There is a lot to be done. But I think with all the other context of ideas that we have developed, I think we are going to take this book and make it our own, each of us, in a very different way. And we are going to combine it. We're going to end up combining it with different things. So it's going to look very different in our minds. How, when we have put it together, it's going to look very different. But I think it's a very good base, because it is going through this entire cycle of saying, what's wrong with the world? What's the core of I need to build? How do I build it out? What is the mechanism for building it out? And what are the effects of it? So it's going through all of these cycles, and it is doing it systematically. So I think we'll be able to do a lot with it. So I think we are onto something.